everyone, and welcome to Gargoyle Nation. As you can see, this is a brand new channel, and this is the place to be if you want to talk gargoyles. I'm talking the toys, the comics, obviously the show, the Funkos, the games, you name it. This is the place to be. We're going to talk about literally everything gargoyles here. I am your host, Desi C, and given that this is obviously my very first episode, I thought I'd use it to kind of introduce myself to the rest of you. And after this one, we're going to hit the road running. We're just going to talk gargoyles, gargoyles, gargoyles. But obviously, given this is a gargoyles channel, my intro is going to involve gargoyles. I'm going to tell you just a little bit of how I got into the fandom, how, the toy collecting went, just little things like that. And hopefully you stick around and we can talk about this great show. So, like most people who are around my age and got into the show, I started watching it as a kid back in 1994 when it first started airing. Flipping through the channels one day, just, being a kid, stumble upon Gargoyles, and yeah, it's a really cool show. Let's start watching this thing, We didn't have a TV guide in my house. So anytime I did watch it, it was kind of by fluke unless I happened to already be on the channel that it was airing on and they said, hey, yeah, Gargoyles is next, or Gargoyles, is the next episode after this one, that sort of thing. But I did watch enough of it to fall in love with it. I don't remember which episodes, unfortunately, but you know what, that little bit is neither here nor there. Also, thankfully, I did have a little brother who liked to watch the show with me because I was that really weird kid who wanted to sleep in on Saturday mornings. I was not an early riser, but my brother refused to let that stand. So every Saturday morning he would be getting me out of bed so that, we could have our breakfast and we could watch all our morning shows like Power Rangers and Reboot and obviously Gargoyles. So I very much have my little brother to thank for my current obsession, making sure it lived through childhood. Because as we all know, kids are excited about one thing 1 minute and have moved on to another thing 2 minutes later. So yes. In terms of collecting, that one was almost non-existent for me, unfortunately, as a kid. I'm not sure to this day if it was because I lived in the middle of nowhere or just because I lived in Canada, because I know sometimes when it comes to distributing toys, Canada sometimes gets the short end of the stick, but I don't remember seeing Gargoyles figures in the stores. The only reason, like later on in life, that I remembered the show was we had the Gargoyles watch. I had to think. I liked watches as a kid. I even have a Toronto Maple Leafs watch. Don't ask. But yeah, we definitely had the Gargoyles watch that came with the extra wristbands. But that pretty much was the only Gargoyles thing we had, and it may have been because of me. My brother was more interested in, Mask and Power Rangers and those kind of shows, so it made sense that it was me trying to collect, and I guess I wasn't really allowed to collect boys' toys back then. I'm not going to question it now. It is what it is. But yeah, that was pretty much the only thing I had as a kid. And then, okay, so years went on, watched the show, and then as the years passed and the show went off the air, obviously stopped watching it, and it kind of faded from memory, as kids' shows kind of do. Especially when you're in a world where internet's not a thing and people aren't really posting about this thing that you love. It is what it is. So now we can fast forward a little bit. There's a huge chunk of time to about 2003, 2004. One day cleaning out, one of the closets, and I stumbled upon that Gargoyles watch. But funny enough, I didn't stumble upon the watch itself. I stumbled upon one of the spare wristbands. Even funnier, it was the wristband with Brooklyn on it. That'll become funnier later on, I promise. Um, but yeah, I found the wristband, and oh yeah, I remember this show. This was a really cool show. But living in the middle of nowhere, I don't even think we had satellite at this time anymore. I can't quite recall, but internet was, are you kidding me type situation. So yeah, remembered the show, but kind of it sat there. That was it. Fast forward a little bit further that same year, and I'm on vacation with the family, and I'm that kid that was lucky enough to have to bring homework on vacation. Because apparently March break is meant for working. Anyway, one of the days on vacation, family had gone out for a walk or grocery shopping, whatever it was. But because I had to keep up with my studies, I stayed in the room and was doing my homework. I had the TV on in the background because I liked to have that kind of noise. And I flipped it to the Disney Channel because, you know, heck, these are a lot of shows that I'm literally not going to pay attention to. I just like to hear the talking in the background. So, perfect. And, well, I thought it was perfect. But lo and behold, as I'm doing my homework, what do I hear? Gargoyles is up next. What? Are you kidding me? Okay, so not only were they airing the show just when I happened to be watching randomly. This is a channel I do not have back at home, so this wasn't I would have stumbled upon it eventually. This is the only time I get to watch this. But they were airing it from the very first episode. They were airing it from Awakenings Part 1. I was ecstatic. You cannot believe... Oh, I was so happy. I refused to join the family on outings if Gargoyles was on, or if I would go with them only if I knew it would air later that day. That's how focused, that's how much I wanted to rewatch the show. It was just incredible. And they re-aired episodes 1 to 5. I got to rewatch the very first 5 episodes of this show, and it was... the love restarted. The love was rekindled. I was so happy. And the obsession began. Got back to school, you know, after break. Started wasting a lot of class time drawing, specifically Brooklyn. And again, this is going to be a theme probably throughout the videos. Drew a lot of Brooklyn, mostly because I found beaks easier to draw than faces. I think it's just a me thing. I don't know. But started drawing a lot of Brooklyn. Got into fan fiction, and it's a teenage girl thing. I'm sorry. It's what we do. We're cringe. Get used to it. That's all I can say. And so, yeah, the love was back. The obsession was back. But the problem was I couldn't get my hands on the show. I was, you know, can't remember if it was exactly YouTube that I was using back then. But, you know, trying to scour the internet, trying to find clips of episodes, because the entirety of an episode was not to be found online. Trying to find clips, using other programs to download audio clips so I could at least hear pieces of the show. Things like that. That's how I was consuming, because living in the middle of nowhere, I was still using dial-up in the year 2004. Anyone who's near my age or, you know, was watching Gargoyles back in 94 remembers dial-up. I know the younger ones probably don't. It's an ancient thing. The computer screamed at you and beeps and stuff. No cable, no DSL, nothing like that where I was. It was pure dial-up. So trying to find anything took time. But in one of my searches, thankfully, I happened to stumble upon The Gathering of the Gargoyles. Now, if you are a new fan of the show and you haven't watched every episode yet, it will be revealed to you eventually, or you could stick around here and you'll find out why that name is, you know, kind of important. If you've watched the show, then yes, you know where the name The Gathering of the Gargoyles comes from. And so, yeah, I discovered this convention, and I looked it up, looking through its pages, and oh great, it's a traveling convention. So maybe one day I'll be lucky enough that it'll be like in New York or New Jersey, where or even Michigan, where it's a decent drive to get there. It's going to be a little bit difficult trying to convince the parents to go, because going to the States for a trip isn't exactly top priority. But a girl can dream, right? Looking through the website, they've only done American shows. It is what it is. And then I noticed, oh, they're coming to Montreal. They're crossing the border. Now, granted, Montreal's a little bit further than certain parts in Michigan or parts of New York. But it's Montreal. How do you say no to Montreal? And the best part was, that's an easier sell to the parental units, because Montreal is just a 6-hour drive away from where I grew up, north of Toronto. The family likes Montreal. I did not have to fight for that one. The best part was, I found out about the convention in about June of 2004, and the gathering happened in August of 2004. So the fates were smiling upon me that year. And I was very lucky to not only go, but it was also my very first convention ever. And mind-blowing. I got to meet other fans of the show, and I've made connections that to this day I still talk to a lot of these people. Granted, I was the shy teenager then. A lot of these people did have a few years on me, so yeah, hanging out with a teenager probably wasn't on their list of things to do, but at least I was, respectful and not the regular teenager type of I wasn't the little weird teenager. I hope, anyway. Guys, was I anyway. But not only did I get to go to my very first gathering, did I get to meet all these great people, Disney sent out a camera crew to that gathering. And I didn't know when I signed up for this. I found out at the opening ceremonies. Disney sent a camera crew because later that year, or 2005, the season 1 DVD was coming out, and they needed a special features section. And filming the gathering was one of those things. So not only, again, am I seeing these people, meeting these people, and going to a convention about a show I love, there's a camera crew filming all this. I don't have to remember everything that happened. But even after all that, that still wasn't the best part about this gathering. The best part was a little bit of a side story, but this is, again, my history of loving this show and the great things that I have felt because of this show or anything surrounding it. Keith David was a guest at that show, and he was doing a Q&A like most voice actors or actors do when they go to conventions. And so there were a bunch of us sitting in the room waiting for Keith to arrive. And I was talking to the guy next to me, and he had mentioned that Keith at a prior convention, a prior gathering, had done Goliath's Roar at the convention. And little teenage me is going, I want to hear this. I want to hear this roar. It's one thing to hear it on the show, but to hear it done live, that's just kind of amazing, right? So, we're going through this Q&A, and I'm sitting there and I'm going, how do I work up the nerve to ask him this? I was a very shy teenager, and now I have to speak to a celebrity too? How am I going to do this? The Q&A was going, it was near the end. I eventually, yes, I did work up the nerve. I raised my hand. Keith thankfully, called on me. I don't recall if I actually asked him an actual question, but I did ask him to do the roar. And he did it. He did the roar. And if you are lucky enough to own the season 1 DVD, it's there. So kind of you're welcome, I guess. Not trying to be boastful or anything, but I didn't even know the camera crew was in the room when I asked, to be honest. I was so focused on Keith and trying to get my question out that honestly had no idea that they were there, but they were, thankfully, and they caught it all on camera. Now, for those of you who aren't lucky enough to own the DVD, because first of all, this was back in 2005 when it was released. We are talking nearly 20 years later. They are a little bit difficult to get a hold of. I'm pretty sure the eBay listings are not forgiving. And you know what? Everyone should be able to hear it. So here you go.
They were at first going to put some sound enhancement or, put some reverb and stuff on it, but they didn't have to.
And there you have it. It's one of those things that's one of the memories that absolutely stuck with me over the years, and I'm so glad it was caught on camera. And yeah, and so that's the experiences. And then as an adult, as you can see, my collecting has done a lot better than when I was a child. As you can see, the very first item I managed to get a hold of was the talking bank. He unfortunately has, changed color over the years. It happens. He's yellowed. Even though he was in proper storage, it happens, but he is still one of my favorite items ever. My collection just keeps growing and growing. It is not big enough yet, and my wallet hates me because it's not big enough yet. But yeah, and this is only a piece, but yes, that's essentially me in a nutshell when it comes to this show. Yeah, that's obviously there's a lot more details of what I've been doing over the years since that gathering, but it's watching the show as the DVDs came out, collecting the Funkos as they came out, going to garage sales and stuff like that, trying to get my hands on figures, stuff like that. But that's it. And I hope, I did a decent job doing storytelling. It's my first time doing this, so. But yeah, so that's it. That's this video. Video's done. So if you like what you heard and you want to come back for more, because next episode is going to be, talking about the show. It's going to be talking about the toys, the comics, the show. We're going to hit the ground running here. So if you like what you heard and you don't want to miss, the next one and the one after that, please make sure to like and subscribe. I will be linking my social media down below. Shoot me a show idea if you have one, or if there's a topic that you want to, have talked about. I'm open to suggestions here. This is going to be a conversation between fans. We're here to have fun, okay? And also make sure to check out my Patreon. I'm sure there's something there that, you'll like. And yeah, so once again, I am Desi C, and see you on the next one. Bye.